Yes, hello? We're back, department. Yeah, it's Kodai Senga and Mark Vientos. We'd like you to put the word out. Welcome in. Another edition of the Believe in Mets podcast. That is Jack McKessie. I am Chris Schubert here talking all things New York Mets. It is a series win in San Francisco. The Mets on a little bit of a mini winning streak here, winners of 3 in a row. Jack, how are you, my friend?
I'm feeling a lot better about the Mets generally than I was the last time we recorded because it felt like they started to do things that good teams do and have everyone on the roster contribute, except for Juan Soto, who we will talk about in a little bit. But it's nice to get another series win in the books in San Francisco.
Yeah, recap of the series in San Francisco. A lot of good, some bad, which we'll get to. We'll talk about Juan Soto's injury, and maybe we close talking about the newest Met that will have his number retired later on this year in Carlos Beltran. It was a series win, Jack. It didn't start off on the most positive of notes as the Mets dropped the opener 7-2, and this was all about David Peterson just very much not looking great. I mean, the ball was getting smacked all over the place. Everything was basically missing middle, and the Giants were taking full advantage of it. And this game was also a continuation of what we saw in the last 2 games of the Cardinal series, where the Mets just couldn't hit the baseball. 4 guys left on base, 0 for 3 with runners in scoring position. They just never really put together anything threatening outside of that first inning. And yeah, it's been a rough start to the year for David Peterson.
In a lot of ways, this game felt like the offense reacting to a poor start from the pitching for the first time. Like we talked about it last time, a lot of the highlight of this season so far coming into this series had been the starting pitching and the performance of Freddie Peralta, Kodai Senga, Clay Holmes, who we will talk about in a second as well. But this just felt like the pitching from Peterson and then Minaya just kind of, mostly Peterson early. The wind was completely taken out of the sails of the team just in general, giving up the 3 runs in the bottom of the first after the Mets had Bo Bichette come through early in the top of the first, and then respond a little bit in the second, and then only in the third to have 2 more runs come across for the Giants, and it just kind of felt like the game was over at that point. And like you said, the offense was just kind of feeble, but to me that was in part because the pitching had taken them out of it so early that it just felt like a dragged out, all Mets asleep game from the conclusion in St. Louis.
Right, which was the theme of the finale in St. Louis, that it just felt like the Mets were asleep at the wheel. We did get Mark Vientos' home run in this game, so we can't lose sight of that. It was the start of this big breakout series for Mark. And then Shamania, he saves the rest of the bullpen. I think it's fair to give him that credit that he allowed the Mets to not use anybody else. And yeah, he allowed just the 1 earned run over 3 2/3, but it still doesn't look right. Like, it doesn't feel right with him out there on the mound. It feels like he doesn't know where a pitch is going to end up. He doesn't have a way to get any extra velocity to help him through a tough at-bat or a tough situation. And I don't know what they do, because sending him down to the minors feels like impossible at this stage of his career, but is he just wasting a roster spot if this is the only role that they trust him in? And I got to be honest with you, I don't want to see Shamania in this role very often, because it means the Mets aren't playing well as a baseball team. So ideally, we don't see Shamania in this role, and then it becomes a case of, well, isn't that spot better used for another reliever that can help this team out?
It's a really weird position because the Mets just gave him that 3-year deal that was like the biggest pitching contract they signed last offseason. And at the time, it made a lot of sense. Like, he was coming off of a season in which he looked like the Mets ace for pretty much the entire back half of the season once he made that Chris Sale-like arm slot adjustment. But, I mean, you said it. The velo is not there. The command is no longer there. He doesn't have the same bite to his off-speed stuff that was getting guys chasing in his, run of dominance in late 2024. And the Mets are just kind of stuck with him in a roster spot now, in part because of that money, but also, like, he's a veteran player. It's not like they have many chances to send him down to the minors. I don't know if you have up how many options he has, if he has any left at this point in his career.
He doesn't have any. So
assume not.
He would have to
be a DFA, clear waivers.
Or he'd have to agree like Senga did to get sent down, right?
Yeah.
That's the other way to do it. Or, and I know that this is this is risky territory with the New York Mets because we went through this with Billy Epler. You could do the whole, hey, Sean, maybe your arm's a little tired. You need 15 days to figure it out. Yeah, you could do that as well, and then send him on some rehab starts and try to work through it that way.
Yeah,
It's just I don't really know what to do. It's not and I think we said this in the last podcast. Just it's not a very clean use of this roster spot, and for a Mets team that likes to have at least one spot in their bullpen that they can kind of rotate throughout the course of the season, a guy with options that they can send down and call up or DFA. You look at the bullpen right now, it's just probably Richard Lovelady, who would just get DFA'd, but he hasn't been terrible. So the Mets don't have that flexibility because their guys with options are Huascar Brazoban and Tobias Myers, and you're not touching either of those guys right now. So it creates a very weird situation for the Mets, and I'm just not used to it. I'm not used to the Mets having this type of problem on their hands, and it'll be interesting to see how they figure it out moving forward. Okay, it was all basically good from here for the Mets. We go to Friday's game. Nolan McLean on the mound. Soto does leave the game early. We'll talk about him at the end. But the story of this one is Nolan McLean goes 5 perfect without throwing his best stuff. The Mets offense breaks out for 15 hits, 10 runs. Lindor with multiple hits. Bo Bichette with 3 hits. How about Marcus Semien with 3 hits? Mark Vientos with 2 hits. It was every single Met that you wanted to see have a breakout game had a breakout game on Friday to back up Nolan McLean. Bichette and Semien leading the charge. Can't forget Francisco Alvarez with his 2 home runs. The Semien and Alvarez home run to the deepest part of the ballpark in dead center were just great to see.
Yeah.
But the best night that we've seen from the Mets offensively since the opener against Pittsburgh, the 15 hits were great. Nolan McLean, I mean, just you can't say enough good things about how fun it is to watch Nolan McLean.
It was so crazy watching him pitch in this game because, and they kept bringing it up in the broadcast, he kept falling behind in the count. He would get to 3-0 counts and then work all the way back and strike a guy out, or work all the way back and have him pop into a lazy fly ball, ground out somewhere. And it was just you see all the bits and pieces. It's like a deconstructed puzzle where all of his stuff looked really good in a lot of different situations, especially that sweeper and the curveball were just dirty. But it wasn't all being put together in a cohesive picture like the put-together puzzle. And yet, despite all of that, 5 perfect, walks a guy and then gives up the ground rule double. But everything just looked like a rookie pitcher that's still kind of putting things together. And if this is the I'm still a rookie, I'm still kind of figuring things out version of Nolan McLean, his ceiling is ridiculously high.
Yeah, I just, I think I texted it to you. It just feels like I'm watching Jacob deGrom again. It just very much feels like you sit down and you go, oh, this guy has stuff that nobody else in the league has. And it's different than deGrom, right? It's a different way to get there. deGrom was overwhelming you with 99 and 100. In the 5th, 6th inning, he could still dial it up that high. With McLean, it's the spin. But he also threw the 2 pitches that stand out for me from this start. It's the sweeper to Ramos. They just had no idea what to do.
The front door sweeper to Ramos was absurd, and I think I know what you're going to say is the next pitch.
It's the kick change that he threw to Rafael Devers that had Devers staring out into center field. What am I supposed to do?
That's not even the one that I was thinking you were going to say. I thought you were going to bring up I think it was a sinker that he threw up and into Gerard Encarnacion, and he completely swings at a pitch that was at his face. Because when you're tunneling your pitches in the way that McLean is able to, the ball can start up near your face and then sweep across the plate, or it can come up and keep coming in.
Well, and think about this too, right? The sinker for Encarnacion moves in. He may have thought coming out of the hand it was the cutter and it was going the other way, and so you just have no idea what to do. In fact, the cutter was his best fastball pitch in that start. With the sweeper that he threw to Ramos, it could be a sinker that's going to hit you in the hip. You just don't know what to do with that pitch. And, the spin was so nasty on the sweeper. And he didn't overwhelm batters. He only had the 4 strikeouts. And like you mentioned, it felt like every time you look up, he was in a 3-0 count because he just couldn't locate the sinker enough. And he started going to that cutter to get stuff over as a strike. It was still a great start. And, again, the sky is the limit for this kid. And it's just so much fun every 5 days to sit down and watch him. Because I knew that even though it was a good start and even though he was perfect through 5, just because you can see his demeanor and you've listened to the guy talk enough, you knew he was ticked off at himself.
Oh, yeah.
You knew that he thought he could have actually thrown a perfect game that day, and if he just dialed in a little bit, he could have been the first Met starter to go into the 7th, the 8th, the 9th inning. But yeah, I mean, it was a great night for him. It was a great night for the offense. Bullpen was good. Maybe outside of you. Okay, I'm going to do my favorite thing, and I'm going to go to the text messages because
Okay.
I believe this is the game where you got upset at both Richard Lovelady and Luis Garcia. Even though Luis had a fine inning, you got mad at both of them.
I am not a fan of those guys being on the roster, really, just in general. Richard Lovelady in particular made me quite nervous in this game.
I found them. Because you said, I don't even want to watch him pitch, speaking of Richard Lovelady, in a mop-up role. And then I texted you long before the inning was over, long before Lovelady got out of it. I said, Luis Garcia going to get the 9th, just you wait.
Yep, yeah.
And then you texted me something that I can't say on the podcast, and you're like, "Oh gosh, here he is, Luis Garcia."
Yeah.
And then I said, "I told you," and you're like, "I just didn't want to believe it." Yeah. So I mean, the back end of the bullpen, and by the back end, I don't mean the high leverage guys. I mean basically the first guys in, or the guys that don't get trusted in those spots.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of an adventure with Lovelady and Garcia, but the Mets were able to win this game and didn't have to use Luke Weaver, didn't have to use Devin Williams, so you had those guys rested for 2 days, so that was kind of nice to see. And then, some great individual offensive performances in this one. It feels like Bichette is like right there, but doesn't feel like he's all the way back, but it feels like he's kind of there. Simeon, I feel a little bit more confident in. Vientos, all the way back. I mean, the cold open was me joking about the we're back department. And then Alvarez hits the 2 home runs, and it's like, dude, can we just do that? Can we have that type of approach like every single time we go up there?
Yeah. I'm looking at the roster or the lineup right now, and especially in this game, like you mentioned all the guys that really stood out, but also Luis Robert has just been a phenomenal acquisition by David. I think I've brought him up every series recap that we've done so far, but like he is just a consistent machine up there in terms of getting solid at bats and like has the patience to wait it out and take his walks. But he also like is making contact. He had the walk off in the Pirates series. Like I am a huge Luis Robert fan. I was before he came to the Mets, and it's just fun to watch him play.
Yeah, I think the word that you use there that's so important is he's just so consistent. Like it just feels like the approach is the same every single time, and sometimes it's going to be an extra base hit, and we'll get to it when we get to Sunday's game, but in the 4-run 8th inning, just taking a single, going the other way, and just keeping the line moving, not trying to be the hero that he was against Pittsburgh and hit the home run to give the Mets the lead. No, just taking a pitch and going with it. And it just feels like his approach is so much better. He's drawing walks. He's just being extremely patient. You saw in this series, he got the stolen bases going. He started getting that part of his game. And so, he is – and – I know it probably frustrates a lot of Mets fans to see him play a couple of days and then the bat's hot and he sits down, but the Mets understand that defense and center, the speed that he provides, the power that he has, like it may not at the end of the day look like the 2023 season where he hit the 38 home runs, but this Mets plan I think is going to put him in line to have one of the best years of his career. And so I get it that it makes you want to rip your hair out sometimes where a guy's in the middle of a hot streak and they sit him down, but in this case I totally understand it, and I think it's keeping him extremely fresh, and it has paid off, massively so far through the first 10 games of the season. Do we want to have the Mark conversation now, or do you want to have it when we
I think we can go on like a full Mark Vientos spree at the end of everything else.
Okay, that's fine. So then we get to the third game of the series. The Mets win 9-0, and the story of this one is our guy Clay Holmes, the first Mets starter to go 7 innings. And I said this in the postcast that I do for Locked On, and I'll repeat it here because I just think it's the best way that I've come up with describing this start. I mean this as not an insult. It was just a typical Clay Holmes start. Like everything about it was just typical Clay Holmes. I'm just going to throw the sinker. I'm just going to just get you to ground the ball. I'm just going to trust my defenders. I'm not going to overpower you. I'm not going to throw 99 and have 12 strikeouts. I'm just out there just throwing the ball, just going to get the job done. And it was great. And through the first 2 starts, what is so encouraging is it feels like first half Clay Holmes last year, and that makes me so comfortable that what happened in the second half of last year was not a mental thing for Clay. It was a physical thing, meaning he hit the wall. And that now he is refreshed. He's ready to go. He doesn't have, a career high number of innings on his arm in August and September. You're seeing the guy that the Mets signed last year, who started the first half of the year for them and was really, really good. And, all throughout this series, the Mets starting pitching outside of David Peterson, it was on full display of just how good they can be when everything's locked in with what Freddie Peralta's been, what Nolan McLean was, what Clay Holmes was. We'll get to Kodai Senga here in a second. It was just incredible. And the other thing, too, 3 hits, 2 walks. None of it was ever like serious danger where you're like biting your nails and you're worried about, we got to get out of this. Like, leadoff walk, all right, we'll work around it. 2-out single, we'll work around it. It was never any like serious trouble, and that was like super encouraging. And then Tobias Myers is great in this role, and he saves the Mets bullpen.
It's. I said it when the Mets signed Holmes last year, and the report came out that they were thinking of converting him to a pitcher. The ceiling for Clay Holmes to me was like 4 or 5 starter that can get you 5, maybe 6 innings every once in a while, because he's a converted reliever. He's not a guy that has a lot of experience starting. Like you said, last season he was at career high in innings pitched by August and September. But starts like this make you think David Stearns absolutely nailed the acquisition and knew exactly what he was doing, trusted in the pitching development, whatever, tweaking his arsenal, building up his stamina. Like, I never would have envisioned last year seeing a 7-inning Clay Holmes start where he gives up 0 runs, and it feels like an easy time. Like, it was not a very stressful outing at all. And to your point, like, it's just another, not nail in the coffin, the opposite of that, another feather in David Stearns' cap and the pitching staff, where, like, Clay Holmes was the 4 starter to start the season, and he looks like capable of being the 2 guy if Peterson keeps struggling. So it's nice to see, and it's nice to see the offense keep rolling in another game in San Francisco.
Well, and the thing that I like about this too, right? It started by them just taking advantage of Matt Chapman having one of the worst series you're ever going to see an opposing player have with his defense, and then whatever he thought he was doing in the 9th inning of the game yesterday.
Yeah,
and they took advantage. They put the ball in play. Benj, who I think we should talk about because he has had a rough go of it here as of late, he put the ball in play. And good things happened, and the Mets jumped out to that early 3-0 lead, and then they were able to blow it open in the 5th. Bichette singled, Vientos kept swinging the hot bat, and then Tyrone Taylor, they bring in a lefty. Carlos Mendoza says, watch this. By the way, 3-0 in the Carlos Mendoza glasses era, so if you want to keep track of those types of things, very important. Since he started wearing the glasses in the dugout, the Mets were 3-0. He goes to Taylor. Taylor hits a pinch hit 3-run home run for his first
hit of the season.
And so that blew it open, and the Mets got great pitching from Clay Holmes, and that's all she wrote.
Yeah. That's kind of what I was alluding to in the opener here, where it's like good teams are supposed to take advantage of when bad teams do dumb things and bad things. And that's exactly what the Mets are able to do throughout this series. You already alluded to it in the finale, but like put the ball in play, and if they mess up, like step on the throat, take advantage, and go out and keep scoring runs. And that's what it did in this 3rd game, and it's also, we could transition to the 4th game now, unless you have anything else to say. Of exactly what they were able to do late in the 4th game of the series as well.
The Mets win the finale of the series 5-2, and what started like it was going to be another tough luck loss for Kodai Senga because he was going up against Logan Webb, who had the Mets bats in fits. And you have to tip your cap. Logan Webb is a very good pitcher. He had a very good approach, and he was able to get the Mets out. That's going to happen some days. But it's 2-1 as we get into the bullpens, and the Mets are able to capitalize in that 8th inning, a 4-run 8th. And I got to tell you, you got to give a ton of credit to Carlos Mendoza because he's got Jared Young, who's in the game for Brett Beatty, who gets removed before the game because he's got something with the thumb. He puts Jared Young in there, and Jared Young is 3 for 3. The Giants go to a lefty, and Carlos Mendoza responds by saying, I'm going to use my backup catcher, the last guy I have on the bench, because I've already used Tyrone Taylor. I don't have Juan Soto. I don't think Brett Beatty was swinging a bat yesterday, but we weren't really sure. I'm going to go to my pinch hit catcher, and Luis Torrens rewards him by going the other way. It takes a lot to go to that matchup, even though it's the right thing to do. You get the right on left, but Jared Young swinging a hot bat, playing great defensively, throwing out runners at second base, playing just the Jared Young game, right?
Yeah.
He goes to Torrens, and Torrens rewards him with the opposite field go-ahead 2-run double. The Mets add on the 2 extra insurance runs, and then they get to hand it off to what is becoming one of the most comfortable duos to watch close out a game for the Mets in recent memory, because Luke Weaver and Devin Williams go out there and you don't break a sweat.
Yeah. It was such a encouraging come from behind in the 8th inning there, where, like you said, it just felt like another setup for a tough loss. There were multiple occasions where the Mets did get a hit with a runner in scoring position, but it was like a weird bloop, or the ball carried weirdly, and guys had to get held up at third base. Like, they finished 6 for 17 with runners in scoring position. They only scored 5 runs.
Can I use a timeout real quick? Because you mentioned getting held up at third base, and I do want to talk about something. Ever since we sent Francisco Lindor in extras, all we do is throw up a stop sign at third base. Like, this is my greatest fear coming out of that game, because everybody yelled about how it's a bad send, it's terrible, it's awful, and I believe I said on the pod, I'd rather than be overly aggressive and have to rein it in. Well, now we've overcorrected in the wrong direction, where I think those little chances that we should be taking were not. And they took 3 out of 4. They're 6-4 to start the year. Things are good right now, right? But it does feel like we've overcorrected, and we got to refine that balance a little bit, because it feels like there are chances where I'm like, oh, they're going to send them, and the brakes get thrown up, and I'm like, I'm not sure that this is the right response to what happened in that game against Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I'm with you. It was frustrating to watch, because you think the guy is coming through in a big moment, like a hit with a runner in scoring position, and they don't end up scoring. But obviously things ended up turning out okay with the rally in the 8th inning. And it's just good to see that, unlike in the first game of the series, where the pitching kind of took things out of it, the offense kind of sputtered after the 2nd inning and essentially lazed through the rest of the game. Like, Logan Webb had a great outing, but it didn't feel like he was dominating. They were getting bats on the ball. They were putting the ball in play. And as soon as he was out of the game, they jumped. And that's, again, going back to what I was saying, when you see a small opening or a window of opportunity from a starting pitcher who was one of the best in the game to a bullpen that is clearly a lot weaker, jumping on it, taking advantage, and driving in run after run by keeping the line moving.
And credit where credit is due, because I think he deserves it, because he's been struggling because he's dealing with the Achilles. The guy who got that started in the 8th inning is Jorge Polanco, legging out a double on a bad Achilles, on a bad wheel, that allows Mendy to go to Tyrone Taylor to put the tying run on at second base and put that whole thing in motion. So also deserves a lot of the credit. I know Torrens has the big hit. Vientos adds on as well, but Polanco got that started with that double, was 2 for 4 as well. And so, again, it was another 2-hit day for Mark Vientos. It was a 3 for 3 day for Jared Young. You texted me, and I don't want to totally steal your thunder, but you're like, this is the everybody else series. This is like everybody else not named Francisco Lindor and Juan Soto doing stuff for the Mets. And this is where the offseason work can get you really excited, because this is what the Mets are trying to do. They were trying to lengthen their lineup so that other guys could contribute. And in a series that you lose Juan Soto in the 2nd game, after that, Francisco Lindor goes 0 for 10. You're still able to win 3 out of 4. That is a very encouraging sign for the rest of the Mets season, that they're getting this production from all of these other guys. And, oh, by the way, Polanco still hasn't hit his first home run. He's hitting below 200. Oh, by the way, we really haven't seen Bo Bichette fully break out yet. Oh, by the way, Carson Bench is like 0 for his last 400. So, all of those, before this series, Semien hadn't been swinging a hot bat. So you're still able to do this, and yeah, it's really, really encouraging. We got to talk about Mark Vientos, because I think it's very fair to say Swaggy V is back.
I am fully in on the Swaggy V train. I think, we saw it in a little bit at the end of the St. Louis series, if I'm remembering correctly, and like as soon as they got to San Francisco, it was just all systems go, full throttle for Mark Vientos. He's now hitting 476, obviously unsustainable, but like he's taking pitches more. He's like not a free swinger as much. Like, it's not like he's being as aggressive. There was one at-bat in this finale where he was swinging for the fences. It was like, Mark, we just need you to put the ball in play, buddy. Like, relax. But it's good to see him look a lot more confident at the plate. He's getting some of the power there with the double, like things are starting to come together for Mark Vientos in a way that we had not seen really at all in 2025.
Yeah, and he's hitting 476 to start the year, and if there is, I don't want to call it a silver lining to the Juan Soto injury because that's not the case at all. I'd rather have Juan Soto in the lineup. But Mark Vientos playing as well as he has gives the Mets, I think, the courage to say, you know what, Juan, we're going to put you on the 10-day IL. We're going to give you the 2 to 3 weeks to make sure this is okay. We're not going to push this. This isn't August. This isn't September. And this gives opportunities for Vientos, for Brett Baty to get out there and play every day, which is allowing the Mets to show off their depth. I want to talk about Soto, but let's very quickly touch on Kodai Senga real quick.
Can I say one last thing about Mark Vientos?
Please, yes.
Another, like, under the hood, very positive thing, and I sent you this on Twitter earlier
his
today.
bat speed, baby. The bat speed.
His bat speed has, I don't know how to word this correctly. He has raised his bat speed the third most of any player in MLB this season as compared to last season. So, like, an uptick by 2.5 miles per hour this season so far, up to 73.7 miles an hour from 71.2. That's the third fastest increase in baseball so far this season, just behind Colt Keith of the Tigers and Cam Smith with the Astros. So, I mean, if you need another good sign or like a under the hood reason why Mark Vientos is starting to all of a sudden succeed, his bat speed is back. He's able to drive the ball better, and we're seeing the results of that play out with this kind of pseudo re-breakout in 2026.
And what is more important, I think, to just add a little bit more to that statistic, his current bat speed for the year is higher than it was in 2024. So, yes, it's better than it was in 2025, but what we are currently seeing from Mark is actually better than 2024 when he had the breakout. So some more things. And again, bat speed, you still got to make good contact. You got to square it up. You got to hit the ball hard. Bat speed is just one metric under the hood. But so far in 2026, I mean, the sweet spot is great. The bat speed is good. The squared up is good. He's not striking out a ton. He is taking the most advantage of this situation. And he's just such a fun guy to root for. Like, how much he cares, and how much he wants to win, and he wants to be a contributor. And so to see him do this is really encouraging. The lone bat spot coming out of the series is the Mets will be without Juan Soto for the next 2 to 3 weeks. He got placed on the 10-day IL. Old friend Ronnie Mauricio was called up to take his spot on the roster and be on the bench. Listen, it sucks. Juan Soto's not a guy that misses games. I consider this a hot take. I like watching Juan Soto play baseball. I want to see him play baseball for our team. But it's okay. It's April. Just get this taken care of. Take your time. Don't let this calf strain linger and turn into something more major like an Achilles injury or something that's going to keep him out for even longer. Take care of it. You've got guys like Brett Baty who need to be in the lineup every day, Mark Vientos who need to be in the lineup every day. This is where Lindor steps up. This is where Bichette steps up. This is where those guys carry the burden for a little bit. And I think this is where Carson Bench, you want to be an everyday player for this team. You deserve a spot here in the show. You don't need to be Juan Soto, but this is where you pick up your production as well.
Yeah, I think the encouraging thing in the wake of the Juan Soto news is how well the Mets played without him in the last 3 games of the series. Obviously, they go 3-0 essentially from the moment that Soto left that second game. And to have the length of the lineup really shine through in this series makes me think, it's a minor calf strain. It's 1 to 2 weeks. Like, I'm not super stressed. And like you said, it's April. Schedule's not too difficult besides that Dodgers series that's kind of on the horizon, but like you said, it's really early, and to have everyone else in the lineup start to heat up at this time, it's kind of perfect. My biggest concern is Lindor, and they talked about it again on the broadcast in the finale of this game. He has not hit as well without Juan Soto behind him in the lineup, and that's just been a consistent factor for the last 2 seasons, or I guess one season plus, and obviously not off to a hot start this season, 0 for 10 since Soto left in that second game. You hope he's able to pick things up. Slow starts are kind of his MO over the last 4 or 5 years. But something to just kind of keep in mind is Lindor might still be slow. And to that point, I wonder if Ronnie Mauricio gets any additional playing time starts during this period.
3 reasons why I am not concerned about Lindor and the 0 for 10 over the weekend. 1, he always has slow starts to start the year, so this is in line with what we've seen. 2, we need to remember the surgery that he had in the offseason, like in spring. He is still coming back from that. And 3, I do wonder if he is pressing a little bit, and the moment Soto left, he felt like he needed to do more, and he's expanding the zone, and he's swinging at pitches he shouldn't. If Bichette starts to put it together, if Polanco starts to put it together, if Robert keeps hitting, and everybody else keeps contributing, I think that's going to relax Lindor down to the point where he can go back to being the guy. Listen, dude, take your walks. Take the walks. Lead the league in walks right now. That's fine with me. So those are the three things why I don't think it's an overall huge major concern. The Diamondbacks next up for the Mets, starting today when you're listening to this podcast. The first two games moved up. A little cold weather coming into town, so we got to move these games up a little bit. It's Freddie Peralta against Zach Gallen, a battle of two aces. You got David Peterson against Ryan Nelson, and then you got Nolan McLean against another ace, apparently, in Eduardo Rodriguez, who has not allowed a run yet this season. The Arizona Diamondbacks, offensively, stink.
Except for one player.
Unless your name is Corbin Carroll, the Diamondbacks offense, not very good. They have scored 2 runs or fewer in 6 of their 10 games this season. So they are struggling offensively. Corbin Carroll's been good. Everybody else hasn't. They lost Carlos Santana over the weekend, although he hadn't been hitting a whole lot. Jordan Lawler, one of their top prospects who had been playing left field, who was their best hitter actually to start the year, he went down with an injury, so they're dealing with that. And the cold weather's probably not going to help them and those bats break out. So an opportunity for the Mets to keep the good times rolling here. You can definitely get after Ryan Nelson in the second game of this series. And so you're looking at, can Freddie or McLean win me one of those two? And I walk out of here with a series win.
I also feel like you can jump on that bullpen. I have not been paying as close attention to the Diamondbacks as maybe you have, Chris, being closer to the area, but I feel like that bullpen has been struggling recently. I saw they gave up a few runs to the Braves in their series finale the other day, late in the game. So,
yeah, their bullpen's been overall better than anticipated, but it can leak at times. So that's certainly something to keep an eye on. As we close, it is a very exciting piece of news. Carlos Beltran going to go into the Mets Hall of Fame, get his number retired. Tyrone Taylor's actually switching to 28 because of this. And so last year it was David Wright. This year it was Carlos Beltran. And, Wright is number one. We talked about it on the pod when you and I both went to the game. I always have a soft spot for Carlos. I loved his time here. One of my favorite Mets growing up. I know 2006 sticks in a lot of people's heads, but this guy was awesome. And I want to put everybody back in the moment. I know it didn't end anywhere near the way we wanted it to, but remember when Carlos Beltran was hired as the manager of the Mets and the excitement that we had about this guy's baseball acumen coming back to New York. Again, we never got there for a whole host of other reasons, but this is one of the best Mets, and he's going into the Hall of Fame as a Met, and so very, very excited that the Mets are going to have that honor later on this year.
Yeah, I mean, growing up for us, it was Mike Piazza, it was David Wright, Jose Reyes, and Carlos Beltran. And that was the group that kind of carried the Mets in the mid-2000s, and then Piazza left and Beltran kind of took on a bigger role, obviously, when he came over from the Royals. And he's one of the best switch hitters of all time. He's going into Cooperstown wearing a Mets hat. And I've seen a lot of discussion from people saying the Mets are retiring too many numbers. And let me just say, flat out, if you go to the Baseball Hall of Fame and you're wearing a Mets hat, your number's getting retired.
Yeah, that's how it should.
That should be a no-brainer. Next question. So, very excited to have one of my favorite players from when I was little, both fielding and at the plate, outside of 2006, get that recognition from the Mets this season. It's well deserved, in my opinion.
Also, the Mets have too many retired numbers. Let me just check here, so we can be on the same page. They have 5. 18,
Daryl,
16,
Doc,
24 for Willie Mays,
yep,
17 for Keith Hernandez, 36 for Jerry Koosman, 31 for Mike Piazza, 42 for Jackie Robinson, 41 for Tom Seaver, 14 for Gale Hodges, 37 for Casey Stengel. I mean,
it's 10 and a half.
And by the way, tell me who on that list should not have their number retired by the Mets.
Right. Yeah. I get it's a lot in many consecutive years, but these are guys that all should have had their number retired a long time ago for at least the guys on the 86 team, Doc, Daryl, Keith. Those guys' numbers should have been retired long ago, and now we're finally getting the recognition of, I guess, the millennial era of Mets with David Wright and now Carlos Beltran.
Well, but here's the other thing, who's next after that?
It's going to be a while. It'll be a while.
I mean, we don't have enough time to do this. I don't think they would put Pete up there, but he is the all-time franchise home run leader, so it may become a thing later down the road. But like,
yeah, DeGrom,
it wasn't long enough. So like, Billy Wagner's not going to go up there,
right?
I don't think they would do Jose.
No,
they're not going to do Carlos Delgado.
No.
So like, Daniel Murphy, like I'm going around the positions and thinking of people as of late that you would put up there. Like you're not putting Daniel Murphy.
No. Cespedes?
It's not long enough for that.
No.
Like,
no, I mean, this is like the last one until Lindor in like 20, 30 years.
Yeah, and then Soto after that. Like, yeah, like.
So yeah, it's they've now caught up, I think, to all the players whose numbers should have been retired to this point.
Yeah, 100%.
And Beltran is the most recent because he just got into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and so I haven't decided. I have yet to go to Cooperstown for a Hall of Fame like induction weekend, and I always told myself, and I think you and I talked about this, there would be one guy that I would drop everything and go for, and that would be David, just like we did for his number to be retired. Now, I don't know if we're going to get there. It looks like we're kind of trending in a good direction, but it may take a while for David to get there. I don't know if I would do it for Beltran, but I'm considering it. Like that's how much Carlos, like how much I've rooted for him as a kid. September 19th is when his number will go up there. So hopefully the Mets are playing some very important baseball while that is going on.
Fingers crossed. I think it's just a well-deserved thing, and the Mets are making a no-brainer here in retiring his number.
Yeah. We're back after this Diamondback series. We'll recap it. We'll get you ready for the 3-game series against old friend Jeff McNeil and the Sacramento, Oakland, Las Vegas A's, who had a pretty fun weekend. Oh, I know this is not a Mets thing, but everywhere I'm talking baseball, I want to make sure I bring it up. Joe Adell with one of the best defensive games you're ever going to see somebody have. In the
just the coolest thing that I've ever seen.
Yeah, no shot anybody tops that this season, and I would be totally okay if we just passed the rule right now and made that the picture from the crowd of Joe Adell in the stands the MLB The Show cover for next year. I'm good with it if we want to just do that right now so that everybody's happy.
Joe Adell doesn't need to do really anything else for the rest of the season. Like he has cemented his 2026 legacy in April. You rob 3 home runs in a game, and I think Field Yates of ESPN put it really well. Like that's something that would be too crazy to put in a movie. Like it's that level of unbelievable accomplishment.
And the home run that the piece de resistance, the home run in the top of the 9th to save the game, basically, when it's 1-0 was just incredible. All right, that's going to do it for us here. Another edition of Believe in Mets in the books. Make sure you rate, review, subscribe to the podcast wherever you are following us, wherever you're listening to us. Share a show, share an episode, share this episode with a fellow Mets fan in your lives. You want to watch the show, Jack McKessie, McKessy. The march to 250 subscribers before the All-Star break is on. You can be a part of it if you're watching us over on YouTube, or if you're listening to us and you haven't hit the subscribe button over on the YouTube side. We're back to recap the series against the Diamondbacks. Until then, let's go Mets.
Let's go Mets.